Is she a homicidal maniac? Kind of.
100% confirmation on Pearl's bisexuality. This part kind of had me a little gagged. Hi guys, it's Jackie. Today I thought we could talk about the Pearl novelization. When the Pearl movie came out, it was a big deal for everyone, or at least everyone in the horror community. I really enjoyed that movie. I have watched it many times since it came out, loved it more every single time. I think a lot of people really liked that movie and saw what was unique in it. And it was a big deal. Everyone was talking about it, but I haven't really seen anybody talking about this novelization. The Pearl movie came out in 2022, I think, and this novelization just came out in 2024. As soon as I heard there was a novelization, I really wanted to check it out and see what, like, the differences were going to be, or even what enhancements there would be, how the text would add to the movie, or like what it could clarify about her thoughts. This is my copy. This book is only a little over 100 pages, but I really took my time reading it because I really wanted to take it in and think about what it was saying about the movie and about the characters. So when I first started reading this, I wasn't really sure if I was going to like it or if I was going to agree with the author's interpretations or of Pearl's characterization. The first line that kind of stood out to me and made me think, and I wasn't sure if I liked it at first, was the scarecrow scene. When she is, kind of getting into it, their passion burned brighter and hotter, threatening to become a raging wildfire, and she imagined the cornfield exploding into flames, the fire encircling them with heat so intense she could feel her skin begin to blister like the soldiers in the newsreel. He is kind of describing her passion as a raging wildfire. At first I wasn't sure if I liked that. I was like, why are we going for that? The more I think about it, the author is trying to set up that her passions and desires are intense and kind of destructive. I think at first this just kind of threw me off. I think I took it a little too literally at first. She's thinking about a fire burning down the field. Her passions for everything, desire to dance, for her desire for other men, are so strong and intense that they are destructive and they can eat up everything in their wake, just like a fire. So I wasn't sure how I felt about that line at first, but in retrospect, I think it's a good one. That was on page 36. So I wasn't really sure if I was going to be into this book at first, and on page 36 was the first note that kind of had me like actually start thinking. I wouldn't say that I really got into this book until about page 50, but my next note is on page 41. It describes Pearl's father in a bib. I think it is there to point out that Pearl is scared of feeling helpless. The bib kind of stands out in her mind. She doesn't want to feel helpless like him, at the mercy of other people. It says that the bib is squeezed tightly. That can kind of describe how she's feeling. Her life has a tight grip on her. The next note I have is on page 50. Mitzi and her mom have just dropped off the pig at Pearl's house. Pearl is trying to convince her mom to let them have the pig, bring it inside, and just have it for dinner. This is what her mother says. "You may have married their boy, but they are not our family." Yikes. There's no real judgment on Howard here. She may be a fan of Howard, but she does not like Mitzi and her mother. She does believe that they are only affiliating themselves with Pearl to look good socially, to look like they're taking care of the family while Howard is away at war. She thinks that they would not be there for them if there was actually something serious or bad going on with them. That it's easy to just drop off a roasted pig and say you're helping someone, trying to cut Pearl off, trying to tell her they're not your family. I am your only family, me and your father. You cannot trust other people. They won't be there for you. They won't have your back. You shouldn't play and pretend like they would. You shouldn't even mess around with them. There may be some truth to that, considering what happens in the story later. I still feel that this is Ruth just kind of wanting complete control over Pearl. She's so concerned with Pearl being ill and not acting properly. She's certainly not encouraging healthy connections that maybe could help her out mentally. It is kind of a survivalist mentality though, and I can't fault her entirely for that. You know, if something bad, very bad were to happen in the end of this story, is Mitzi there for Pearl? My next note is on page 51, just one page later. Ruth tells her that you cannot have any of that pig. I don't think this part is in the movie though. Pearl sneaks a taste of it and it's written in a very tense way, like she's indulging in a forbidden sin. It describes it as very, very good, and she's really savoring it. So further expanding on her mindset, all these things that she wants, like dancing and later on other men, they're like tastes of something delicious she's being denied. It says that the flavor is rich and overwhelming, which I would say is kind of how she experiences the things that she wants. My next note is on page 55. Ruth is singing a lullaby to her husband, Pearl's father, in German, and she is combing his hair very gently. She's singing very lovingly to him. This makes Pearl upset. She's sad because Ruth has never treated her so tenderly or with such gentleness. She's never really felt any love from her. I don't think this lullaby is featured in the movie, but I think it's added in this story, and it's a good little touch. And this makes Pearl jealous, very jealous, which kind of adds to what I think she was experiencing in the movie. I think that Pearl always had a very absolutist mindset where it was like her or her father. Ruth is very concerned with the care of her husband, which is valid. She kind of just sees Pearl as someone to take care of him. Now, Pearl should be taking care of him, obviously, but in her mind, she feels she is worthless and her only use to her mother is to care for him. So she thinks everything is about her father. She wishes once in a while that she could be treated like that, with some tenderness and care, so that she's not left on her own all the time to just kind of fester in feelings of helplessness and anger. And on page 58, she runs and retrieves a gator egg from Theda. I think this is a little bit different from the movie. I don't think this is quite how it happened. When I watched the movie, I did think that she was retrieving this egg to raise it and care for it and kind of have a backup plan, like have another gator at her whim to train and such. But then when she crushed it, I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, I guess that wasn't her plan. But no, in the book, it kind of confirms what I thought. When she picked it up, she did intend to keep it and raise it initially. It says that her goal is to watch it hatch up close. Her plan, of course, is to release it back into the pond once it hatches. She is kind of trying to build up her gator army. She's having a lot of trouble getting this egg in a nest that she feels is proper. She thinks that the hay is not quite enough to keep it warm, so she goes to all this effort getting grass clippings and mud to bind the hay and grass together to really insulate the egg. So she goes to a lot of work for this, actually, which is a little more than is shown in the movie. It shows all her forethought and planning that really went into this. Then on page 62, we have something that has definitely been added to this book for flavor. Pearl has a dream that the projectionist has snuck onto the farm and is in the barn waiting for her. She hears the sound of the pair of scissors, the scissors that he cut the frame out of the film for her. Before he leads her away, he stabs the scissors into a wooden wall of the barn and blood leaks out. This is one sentence that I was kind of like, is a little too much. Throughout the book, Pearl also keeps mentioning the projectionist's hands and the scissors. So this is a callback that happens a couple of times. His hands cutting the film is attractive to her because it's a symbol. I like the highlight that the book puts on the scissors in this. By pursuing the projectionist, she is kind of cutting away her relationship with Howard. She's leaving that behind, destroying her life to seek something else. Self-sabotage and destruction to fill her emptiness. And I did like the other part of the dream that she had, where the projectionist takes her out back. He has set up a picnic for her. Blanket and a basket, projecting film onto the barn wall, and they sit down for their picnic to watch this film together. A picnic is definitely something that Pearl would like and find romantic, even though it's established later in the book. She doesn't really like being in relationships with people. You can kind of get that from the movie too. She doesn't like the work that goes into any of it, but she loves the romantic ideas and the romantic ideals. So this picnic would be very appealing to her. In this film that he shows her in the dream, it's a line of girls dancing, but they are all Pearl, and they are all making out with herself. Her desire for the decadent and her distorted self-image. Kind of my first hint in this book where I was like, are they going to mention her being bi? Even though, you know, in X that was not a great way to find out she swung that way. I was wondering if we were going to address that in this book or not, and I think this is the first hint where the author was trying to address it. During this dream, Pearl is half awake. She is enjoying this dream immensely, like a lot. After she wakes up, she realizes that she is on her period. She has left a very large red stain on her sheets. And then the next day, she is trying to get it out of her sheets desperately. Ruth catches her scrubbing them. Ruth says to her, "You can scrub all you like. The stain is not going away." Her desire is something that's kind of out of hand. Her mom has seen this and made a judgment on it, so it is kind of being portrayed as a sin. This line is very intentional. Her mom tells her the stain is not going to go away no matter what you do. And this is referencing events later in the story. And then Ruth says it's a shame Howard didn't manage to get her pregnant before he left. This is interesting to me because in the movie and in this story, later on, Pearl reveals to Mitzi that she had been pregnant and that she had a baby. So I guess Ruth never knew about this. Ruth says it's a shame because there's no bigger privilege than being a mother. That it is God's greatest honor. And Pearl does not know what to make of this. She's like, what? What are you talking about? You certainly don't treat me like it's the greatest honor or that I've done anything to bless you. Maybe Ruth believes that being a mother is God's greatest gift, but because Pearl does not feel like a gift to her, I think she feels like she is God's challenge for her, or that she is a burden that God has given her to test her loyalty and faith. I think she's bitter about not having a daughter that makes her feel like she's been blessed, but she takes it as a test of her character. Then later on, this kind of pushes Pearl over the edge. She goes out to the barn, she destroys the gator egg, she squeezes it very hard, it erupts. She repeats the line that Ruth said to her, God's greatest gift, and crushes it. She felt the weight in her hand, the solid reality of it, and how very, very fragile it was. This is a callback to how she feels about raising a baby herself and her relationship with her mother. It's very fragile. Part of the reason she is not doing so well mentally is her relationship with her mother makes her feel fragile, and so she doesn't want to care for something fragile, a baby. Now, the way this scene is described with her getting rid of the egg, it's contrasted with the bruise on her arm that she got from her dream. When she was enjoying herself so much, she bit her arm really hard. Here, we have her crushing the egg over the bruise. The bruise represents the violence of her repressed desires. The violence and intensity of her desire is contrasted with the violence of crushing the egg. This shows how she feels about her relationship with her mother and being a mother. It makes her feel very, very angry and violent. This is also her tendency for violence and her desire colliding. The egg and the fluids that ooze down cover the bruise. On page 70, Pearl says, "So what if she's a married woman? She's a star and they are special. Stars do whatever they want. Stars have affairs all the time, and stars see whoever they want, and they can do that because they are special and valued." We have her saying that she picks a salmon-colored dress, a lighter pink. She's not going all out yet because she doesn't want to give him the idea that she's going to go for it so quickly. Just like with everything else, she wants to feel coveted, she wants to feel in demand, she wants to feel that she is special and worthy of attention, and the projectionist is just another outlet for that. She's not all in, she's dipping her toe into the pool, but we're not into the bright red dress era yet. On page 73, when she gets on her bike and she is pedaling into town to see the projectionist, it says that in the sky, projected, she is watching Palace Follies. I really liked that. That kind of seems like the kind of fantastical daydreaming behavior she would do. Something very romantic. Imagining the music all around her. That's a very nice touch from the author. On page 74, don't remember if this was in the movie, but when she comes over, the projectionist hands her a champagne glass. I think this is added for the book. She'd never held a champagne glass before, and it felt so fragile in her grasp. The champagne glass seems beautiful, ritzy to her. Her connection to the beautiful world is very fragile. Page 78, a little thought that Pearl has, I thought was very entertaining. When she is watching the dirty movie, she is critiquing it in her head, and she knows that this is not a high quality movie where dancing skills are required, but she is silently judging the girls that are dancing in this movie, and I thought that was funny. A little bit of character added for her. It also tells you just how much she actually thinks about dancing. She does take it seriously. Page 81. Okay, this part kind of had me a little gagged. As Pearl is riding home on her bike again, she's fantasizing this into the night sky, projecting it with her mind like she was Palace Follies. This time, she's picturing herself, the projectionist, and Mitzi in the scenario from the movie. Notably, Howard is not included in this scenario. I thought this addition was very interesting and a choice on the author's part, because nowhere in the movie for me did I even get a hint that she may have a bit of attraction for Mitzi. But she's having a very intense fantasy involving her. It's not so crazy though that I can't see it. The way the author introduces this idea, you believe that that's totally within the realm of possibility for her. I do not have any strong arguments about why this would not be the case. Once the author put this forward, I was like, yeah, I could see her doing that. 100% confirmation on Pearl's bisexuality. There's no critique on it, ever. I don't like the way that it could potentially be positioned as her bisexuality is another indicator of her indulgence. It's kind of just there. There's no condemnation of it. I myself am bisexual, so this is not me judging bisexual people either. It's not so much the fact that she is bisexual as it is she is dreaming about her sister-in-law. So she is saying to Howard's photo when she gets home, "You left me first. I might be doing something bad, but emotionally, you abandoned me." So she rolls away from the photo and dreams of women from Palace Follies. Page 91, deep into the argument that Pearl is having with her mother at dinner that one night when things really explode. There's a storm going on outside. Lightning and thunder, so close to the house this time that Pearl could hear the sizzle of electricity and feel the vibrations in her bones. I really like that sentence. I feel like that's a great way to capture the ominous nature of the storm and also the tension of the scene. Page 95, we get the end of Pearl and Ruth's fight. I gotta admit, when I watched the movie, I honestly had thought that Pearl pushing Ruth back towards the fireplace was an accident. To me, it seemed like she was just so angry and in such a fit of rage that she just pushed her back and then she fell on the fireplace because her mother said something that really pushed her over the edge, so she just shoved her. But this is what the book gives us. Pearl's fury reached a crescendo and her anger lent her new strength. She shoved Mama back against the fireplace and held her there as she screamed in her face. The book says she is holding her there, and it is very intentional that she is trying to burn her. On page 98, after Pearl has pedaled back to town, after everything that went down, and she jumps into the projectionist's arms, the book describes him as, at first, recoiling. First, he pulls away from her because he is very surprised. I feel like this is a good way to describe their relationship, and this is kind of off-putting for him. It's a little bit coming out of nowhere, maybe. A little more intense than he expected from her. I like the way that they kind of described the nature of their relationship and what happens just in that simple sentence.
On page 99, after her little rendezvous, she is having another dream. She dreams she's on the stage, everything's black and white, she is in a silent movie. It says that she tries to scream, but no sound will come out. That is the perfect metaphor for her life. She can't express how she feels to anybody in her life on the farm. All she has is her mom and her dad. She can't tell either of them how she feels or what she's going through, and Howard is away. Apparently she has never felt like she could talk to him about everything that she feels anyway. The next day, when Pearl is insisting she needs to get home to practice before her audition, the projectionist offers to drive her home. In the movie, I don't believe that this is mentioned. We assume that the car is his. I personally always wondered about that. I was like, if he's a bohemian, he can't be making a lot of money, so how would he have a vehicle? Well, here, it is clarified that the vehicle belongs to his boss. He is allowed to use his car and drive around as he needs to pick up films and shipments and such for him. On page 102, we get the part where Pearl and the projectionist are riding past the soldier walking down the street wearing a mask. Pearl is thinking to herself, people wear all sorts of masks. Yes, it's set during a pandemic, so everybody is forced to mask and be distanced from each other, be isolated from each other, which adds more to the setting and more to Pearl's isolation. But also, the way she is thinking about people wearing masks. She herself wears a mask. She has to hide her true self from everybody. But we can also think about her mother, Ruth, the mask that she wears. Christianity, being Pearl's mother. These are all things that she hides behind, things that she uses as an excuse to mistreat her and dislike her and to feel better about disliking her. Pearl comes home, she finds her dad after everything that happened. He's been left alone all night. In the movie, I kind of genuinely believe that she was sorry. Here in the book, though, she makes a mental note. She's not that sorry, because other than smelling bad, no harm has been done to him. Compared to her mother, maybe. She notices he smells like waste, but that she doesn't have time to do anything about it right now. Once the projectionist saw her father, she would have a perfectly good reason to tell him, hey, I need a minute to get him sorted. Then on page 104, we have her giving him the spoonful of morphine. In the movie, I kind of thought she was giving him this as a very basic kindness in exchange for shoving him aside for the moment. In this book, she is saying she hopes it will make him relaxed and like he is not afraid of her. The projectionist seems very uncomfortable with the prospect of going up to her room while her dad just sits in his wheelchair downstairs. On page 106, there's a little bit added that I really like. I'm a big fan of it. She asks the projectionist to watch her dance. She says, this is a serious thing for me. This is what I'm considering for my life. I've been practicing, about to go to an audition, so why don't you tell me what you think, since you have supported me, reassured me so far that this is something I should do. She tells him, I need to know the truth. If you see a flaw in my routine, I want you to tell me. I want you to be real with me. She wants to know the truth about her routine and her dancing. Then when it comes to her and herself, when he doesn't tell her the truth later, when she kind of lets the mask slip, she can't take that. The way she reacts in that scene to the truth, he says, okay, go for it. Show me what you got. She's about to start. He says, what about the music? Like, are you gonna play some music? She's like, it's in my head. He definitely thinks that's weird. I think this is meant to show two things. First of all, her mother probably doesn't even let them own anything that would play music. I'm getting the impression that she is one of those Christians that's so devout that she probably thinks listening to music is bad. Or she might think it's a waste financially. Or that they should be working and not being idle. She probably learned a long time ago that she has no way of accessing that. Like, she can't afford a music player, and even if she were to play music, her mother would catch her and scold her. But it also, I think, definitely shows just how in her head she is. She's like, I don't need music. I can play it in my head. That's where it is. As Pearl is doing this dance routine for the projectionist, I like what the writer envisions is in her head during that moment. She pictures that she is in a fancy nightclub, but it is set inside a barn, and all the patrons are animals with animal heads but fancy attire. All of the waitresses are her mother. Every single one of them. And instead of taking the glasses for refills, when they're done, they just drop them on the floor and she has to go get them a new cup. It's a pretty good scene to explain the state of their relationship and what she thinks would be a good punishment for her mother. It's very surreal, and it's very based on her life at the farm and the things that would be in her mind. Then when she finishes her little routine for him, he says, I think you have what it takes. This is on page 107. We don't get very much else from him because it is from Pearl's point of view, and she's not very good at reading other people. I'm not sure if he is kind of blown away at how practiced she is and how good she actually is, or if he is kind of taken aback by her intensity. The fact that she is just dancing to something she is entirely imagining in her head. She asks him if he means it when he says that. We don't get a response from him, but they do start kissing again. He might have meant that remark, but she definitely went kind of hard because it says that when she is done, she is sweating. So then on page 110, the projectionist has gotten up out of the room to go investigate. What's wrong with you? She remains in the bed and she's looking at a picture of Howard. It's kind of haunting her in the moment as things are starting to go badly. She hears her mother's voice saying, you can't keep your true self hidden forever, while she's looking at the picture of Howard. Ruth telling her, you can't hide the nasty stuff about yourself forever, and then the guilt of Howard seeing what she is really like by doing these things. Page 111, we get a little bit that I'm pretty sure is not in the movie, the bunkhouse. She is telling the projectionist, this is where our farmhands used to stay. No one stays here anymore. It's empty. You could stay here if you wanted. That's not something I expected from her. She basically wants him to live out there. She wants him around, and she wants to see him when she wants to. But she doesn't want to have to answer to him. She doesn't want to live in the house with him and him be an equal to her. Now that her mother is out of the way, she thinks that she can do whatever she wants around the farm. And she doesn't want another person to be able to chime in and tell her what to do. So she says you can stay here, but you would have to live in this little bunkhouse until we leave for Europe. So first of all, I don't think he ever offered to take her to Europe in this book or in the movie. Kind of just something she assumed they would be doing. I don't know why she thinks her life would be any different. She would still treat him the way she is planning on treating him. She literally says it would be like having a special pet, like one you could have fun with and then tuck away when you didn't want to be bothered. He says, aren't you married? I don't know where you're going with all this, or when you started scheming these big plans. Where is that man in your plans? She tells him, he's gone. It's just you and me. This kind of brings me back to the notion established with her earlier that people are definitely playthings for her. Whether she pushes it as far as she takes it with the animals, people are a different sort of plaything for her. We're going to see how far she pushes it with people, because they're another thing entirely. Earlier, her father in the bathtub, she told herself she was just interested in seeing how much pain she could inflict and if he would give a reaction. But that was also her pushing the boundaries, testing how far she was going to go with a living person. She's kind of pushing it with him too now. So fast forward a little bit, we are on page 116. She yanked the pitchfork free, the sensation natural and welcome, as if she'd finally found what she'd been born to do. Is she a homicidal maniac? Kind of. We're showing the venting of emotions, a unhealthy catharsis. This is her doing what she thinks is good for her because it feels good. In this moment, she thinks this is the way she should have been handling things in her life the entire time. On page 120, she goes back inside to see her father, and her father is shaking. The book elaborates and says that in her head, she is thinking he is concerned for her because she has gotten hurt. Now, I'm not really sure where this disconnect comes from. Maybe because prior to everything and in her childhood, he was someone that was fond of her. A little while before, she gave him morphine because he seemed scared of her.
I completely forgot to plug my mic back in, so I apologize for any discrepancy in audio. After this, when she is bathing her father, we get a sentence from the author that I really enjoyed. When she finally dips him in the water, it says tendrils of blood wriggle like worms in the water, like crimson worms. And that is such good imagery. Not only are we painting a picture, we are painting a sinister picture. It's kind of a callback to those maggots in that pig on the porch. She lets all the animals out of their stalls in the barn. She lets them all go, which is kind of a little bit of a mercy on her part. She says she can't bear to see them starve, so she might as well just let them go and fend for themselves, and what happens, happens. That's an interesting detail to add. That part also made me cringe, though. I know, out of all the things in this to make you cringe, she's really just banking it all on this audition. Those animals are not just your dance audience, they are financial assets. That's all you have left. She's also just not worrying about the trails she has left behind at all. She says that she feels no need to move her mother and father because they belong on the farm, which is also kind of a condemnation of them. This is their final resting place. They don't belong anywhere else but this farm. That's what their life was. That's where I'm going to leave their bodies. That was kind of some powerful writing in a one sentence. The projectionist, though, he doesn't belong on the farm. He was a bohemian. I wonder if that's kind of her realizing that she never would have found any peace with him. He doesn't belong anywhere or to any one thing, so maybe he wouldn't have belonged to her. Being with him wasn't going to make her feel like she would belong like she thought it would. She doesn't really care if it weren't for the possibility that Howard would see him. She says that would be classless, low behavior, not fit for me, a star. So it's interesting the things that she does care about. She also says that Howard will never know what they did. Packing her suitcases, letting the animals out, she really doesn't view the farm as her place where she belongs. She would not be buried on this farm. Page 124. I think it's funny that Pearl kind of realizes after everything is done that she never asked the projectionist his name. She is referring to him as Johnny from Wee Wee Marie. She wishes she could stay and see Theta dealing with the projectionist, which is honestly pretty vicious. And now we have arrived at her audition. Page 126. She has shown up in her bright red crimson title dress. And notice that she is rolling up for an audition at the church. People at the church waiting in line for their audition are frowning in disapproval at her dress. The bright red wasn't exactly scandalous, but it was far too bold a choice for a girl from a proper family. It shows where she's at in her character, completely committing to her passions and her desires. The decision that she made when she took out the projectionist and she said it felt so good, she's fully embracing that feeling of being in control by doing bad things. She has hurt a lot of people. She has had an affair. She calls the people judging her fools. You don't make it in show business by fitting in. You have to stand out. That's kind of funny. She has done a lot of things to make herself stand out. Mitzi eyes Pearl's dress. She doesn't say anything. Pearl says that tells her everything she needs to know. I think that also says something about Mitzi. Mitzi genuinely kind of seems like a cool person. And then the conversation that they have here, honestly, it brings out the humor. I love the way the author kind of plays with Pearl being Delulu and likes to make light of it sometimes. Mitzi is saying the thing she says in the movie about that girl thinking she is God's gift. Pearl wasn't really listening. She was going over every step of her routine in her mind. Completely over her head. But I just love the way the author handled that with irony and light humor. We do get a little bit of an extra dialogue, another line added in. I've never danced in front of anyone but the animals at our farm. And Mitzi says, as long as the animals liked it. Pearl thinks this is a joke. She's not sure how Mitzi meant it, whether it was in good fun or at her expense. She says, yeah, they did like it. This comment from Mitzi does seem a little harsh to me. I'm not sure if there is a nice way to interpret this, which kind of surprises me because in the movie she gave me the impression of being a nice person. You know, there is always the possibility that Ruth was somewhat right. It's giving, oh, the animals liked it, then you're all set. Which, yeah. On page 128, we have a little bit more added to this scene as well. Mitzi sees a spot on Pearl's neck, a spot. She doesn't recognize what it is, and she just wipes it off with her finger. Pearl is very grateful for this. She says to herself that Mitzi is a good friend. And Pearl thinks to herself that her sister-in-law is a good person. I wonder what that would be like, to be good. I know I am not a good person. I think that while Pearl may not condemn her own feelings or hobbies, she does have enough self-awareness to realize that she is not a good person. Then Mitzi notices that Pearl is not wearing her wedding ring. She asks where it is. I don't think this is in the movie either. Apparently, when Pearl was packing up and leaving everything behind, she also removed her wedding ring and set it in front of Howard's picture. In going to this audition, she did decide to completely abandon everything about her old life, including Howard. She says that she left it for him to have back, because it's only fair since he paid for it. Even if she's not so sure of it herself, and she has done a lot of things to sabotage it, she does seem to have a bit of a soft spot for Howard. Page 129, we have the part where Mitzi says that Pearl is a good friend. In the movie, Pearl is very visibly moved by this. She takes it very much to heart. She never considered that someone could see any value in her. In the book, however, it just says Pearl is surprised by this. It reinforces that Mitzi is just being polite with that comment. Maybe not something she meant with her whole heart. It's a little lighter in this version of it. On page 131, we have the part where she is getting ready on stage. She's about to start her dance. This is where her life, the life she deserved, would truly begin. Does she deserve a better life? Yes. But does that mean just worshipped without question, everything you've ever wanted, just be perfect? That might be a little too exaggerated in the other direction. Nobody really has a dream life or a perfect life, no matter what they deserve. The way that she is imagining this life is definitely blown out of proportion, but she does seem to actually be good at dancing. She may have been able to launch a dance career, but if she did get propelled into stardom, she probably would not have people to tell her no, to tell her to temper herself and not to behave in certain ways. It probably is good and is the lesson that she did not become a star. And when she finishes her audition, she says she can hear the sound of applause, which is just her fantasy. She says it is the sound of love. She says that she thinks she is like something the judges have never seen, and they're just going to be so amazed with her. Skipping ahead a little bit to page 135, they have told Pearl no several times and tried to get her off the stage. There is a line added here that I think is really fitting. The woman that handles the auditioners tells her, you know, you have to go now. Pearl looked at her in a small, weak voice and said, I have nowhere to go. That is very true. Even before she blew up her entire life and destroyed everything, she really had nowhere to go, nowhere to be. She doesn't know what she's supposed to do with herself now. Pearl takes this rejection very, very personally. This was her last place she was hoping to go and to belong and to find some sort of identity. We see her mother on the panel of judges. Pearl is hallucinating. She sees her father, Howard, the projectionist. They're on the panel. It's set in a church. She's wearing a red dress. She's being judged for her sins. This is her being told that the way you have chosen to live your life and try to get to this point is wrong. Look at all these people you have hurt. Her one eye filled with utter revulsion and contempt for the broken creature she'd mistakenly brought into the world. So to Pearl, this feels like the final straw, her final judgment. On the way home, Mitzi and her walking home together. On page 138, more added flavor. Pearl notices the scarecrow. She's hallucinating a little bit again. It's a very spooky scene. The scarecrow turns his head slowly to look at her. All the crows nestling on him take flight into the air, making a lot of noise, and he's just kind of staring at her. This is giving that she is haunted by the sight of her first indulgence, her first straying from the path. It's a great callback. I think that's a great way to show the shame that she is feeling. We arrive at the monologue, the famous monologue. Page 141. Mitzi tells Pearl to trust her. You can tell me your deepest secret. Mitzi is the only person besides her husband that has really offered her any sort of kindness. Pearl wasn't certain this was a good idea, but she genuinely believed Mitzi cared for her and would never knowingly lead her astray. We also get the detail in this novelization that Pearl is picturing Mitzi as Howard. She closes her eyes, and when she opens them, Howard is sitting across the table from her. She's seeing Howard. That's who she's talking to. On page 144, it's the end of her monologue. She's closing it up. She says all she wants is to be loved. That's why she did everything. That's why she hurt everybody. The projectionist, Ruth, even her father. Her father was really extraneous here, but she did what she did to him in pursuit of the love of the crowd. And the reason that she hurt her mother was because she didn't love her. She was very cruel to her. Howard, she felt abandoned by him, left her to suffer. Now she says that the way that she thinks would be right for her to get love is just to love Howard. She thinks that will be enough to love him and be loved. She thinks it'll be good for her and it will help her make amends for everything as well. Fast forward a little bit to everything going down between Pearl and Mitzi. Page 148. Pearl is laying into Mitzi. Pearl's dress had quite a bit of blood on it as well. Good thing it was already red. She's done so many bad things at this point that what's another? Add it to the pile. Her dress is red, showing everything bad she's ever done. Let's make it a little more red. Then on page 150, we have the lullaby that Ruth sang to her husband earlier in the book, which I again, do not think is in the movie. We have a little added scene here where Pearl goes to visit her mother down in the cellar, and she pictures her singing this lullaby to her. The lines in this lullaby really kind of accent what's been going on. Tired, I'm going to rest. Close my eyes. Father, let your eyes be yours. Be above my bed. Everyone who is related to me. God, let it rest in your hand. All people, big and small, you shall be commanded. Send peace to sick hearts, wet eyes close, let the moon stand in the sky and see the quiet world. But she also says, let it rest in God's hands. Let him take care of it. I'll do what I can with it and let him take care of the rest. Send peace to sick hearts. Earlier in the book and the movie, she tells Pearl, you are sick. Whether you know it or not, you are ill. She may have regretted it that Pearl was not well, even if she added to that and didn't take care of her. The part about the moon just shows that Pearl and Ruth both just wanted peace, a life that would take care of them. Unfortunately, neither of these women were each other's peace. On page 153, Pearl is setting up the dinner with her deceased family, and I think she is under delusion so badly that she thinks they're alive still. She sets them up at the dinner table and sets the rotting pig in the center of it. That pig is a symbol, what overtook their entire family, the rotting away. Pearl thinks that they are all on good terms now. She thinks that because she realized what she did wrong, they are all getting along now. And at the very end of the book, we get a little more from Howard, which I really appreciate. I was hoping we could get a little more clarity or insight into Howard's POV. The author did provide. On page 156, Howard is talking about when he first told Pearl that he would be leaving for the war. He said that he noticed the visible change in her demeanor and her attitude. He said she became angry, sullen, and cold. Whenever she got this way, which admittedly wasn't often, he glimpsed something dark in her, something that she normally worked hard to conceal. Howard is not as in the dark as we think. He knows there are some things about her that are maybe different, not exactly right. He is already kind of aware of these things. He was her husband, and he saw her more clearly than anyone, even her own parents. Maybe not her mother, but he came close. He sees her a little differently. I like this little line in here, or this little paragraph. In Europe, he'd been forced to tap into the darker part of his own nature in order to survive. He'd committed acts of violence so horrific that he would never utter a word about them to a single soul, not even Pearl. But by touching the darkness within him, a darkness he suspected lay inside all humans, he thought he understood Pearl a little better. So he is not blind. He knows there is something a little sinister about her, and he thinks, having been to something so horrible as war, that potential is a little bit in everyone. She is just maybe a little closer to it, a little more familiar with it. Adds a little more to his character, gives us a little bit more of an understanding of his mindset, how he views her, and how he handles her. On page 157, we have him entering the house. He did not want to go in there, but he knew he had to. Pearl might need his help, and he would never turn his back on her, no matter what. That kind of gives us a little more. He's scared to enter the dining room. He smells the really strong smell of something bad going on. Something bad is in there, and he knows that. No matter what has taken place or what went down, she needs his help. He will not turn his back on her. On the very last page of the book, page 158, I have several things sticky tabbed here. The pig sitting on the platter has several chunks missing from it. I don't think I looked at the pig that closely in the movie, but now I need to watch it and take a look at that pig. Taking bites out of that, eating a little bit of that. I don't know if she has been preparing food for herself and eating it. I hope she's not been munching on that pig full of maggots. Pearl comes into the kitchen carrying a pitcher full of a thick green liquid that he could not identify. I would also like to know what is in that pitcher. Thick and green? Is she drinking that? Her hair and makeup were perfect, her dress clean and freshly ironed. She had never looked more beautiful to him. Amidst all of this, Pearl looks great. She's done her makeup, she's ironed her clothes. She looks beautiful to him, even right now. And then the very last line of the book, I also really appreciate. I'm so glad you're home. Her lips drew away from her teeth as she attempted a smile, the bright light of madness dancing in her eyes. Compared to the very prolonged prolonged ending of the movie where Mia Goth holds her smile in a very painful and sustained way. I love the contrast of this line, which is just very short, sweet, to the point, and then it's over. And it says everything that needed to be said about that prolonged scene in just a couple words. It was really fun for me to analyze this book, go in deeper and compare it to the movie to get more insight into the story and to just get a little bit more. I had a really good time doing this, so I'm thinking I'm going to annotate a lot more books. I'm thinking I will also check out more novelizations. Thank you for watching this. Thank you for listening to me talk. I hope I'll see you again next time. Bye!